The 49ers are hiring KJ Wright as a defensive quality control coach. They were going to give this job to me, but I was like, you know what? I'm already doing a great job on my own. Why don't you go get KJ Wright? No, it was my idea. I'm thinking Nick Sorensen brought him in. Nick Sorensen was with the Seahawks for about 8 years. They worked, well, he coached them kind of. He's a DB coach. What do you think of the Niners bringing in KJ Wright?
I think it's a smart hire. And like when you look at it, it's like he's never coached before, but linebackers have a tendency to understand the way offenses want to call plays against them, what they should be in. I think it's a good hire. He's the one who knows the system probably the best out of all the defensive coaches, outside of Daniel Bullock, probably. The other ones haven't been there that long. I'm interested to see how he does because he's the assistant linebackers coach, but quality control. Like you normally see players come in as just a quality coaching staff, it's quality control, and then you start getting bumped up. And right away he said assistant linebackers coach. That's interesting because I don't think Johnny Holland needs assistance when it comes to coaching the linebackers. But I think it's just because he played linebacker, that's why he's getting that role. Interested to see how they actually utilize him.
Yeah, I'm looking at D'Amico Ryans because they brought him in as a defensive quality control coach in 2017, the Niners. That was his only job. And then in 2018, he became inside linebackers coach. 2021, he became the defensive coordinator. So seems like KJ Wright's on a similar trajectory, perhaps, or starting at a similar spot. I'm not saying he's going to be the Niners defensive coordinator in 3 years, but I'm not saying he won't either. And like you said, the linebacker spot is a great, preparation. That's not the right word for being a defensive coordinator because you're involved in pressure schemes, you're involved in run fits, and you're involved in coverage. So you're pretty much involved in a little bit of everything on defense. And look, it worked with D'Amico. Jim Harbaugh just brought down Navarro Bowman to be the linebacker coach with the Chargers. It seems like a smart thing to do, and it seems like people who've worked with KJ Wright think he's a really smart guy.
And I think when you look at it too, like Nick Sorensen, the issue with Steve Wilks, right, was he couldn't pair the front four and the front seven with the back end, right? And Kyle mentioned that, John Lynch mentioned that multiple times. They're like, when your D line is doing stuff and your back end is doing something else, it's never going to work. You have to marry them together. Well, KJ Wright played that linebacker role, so he could help make that a good marriage in the sense of Nick Sorensen is a safeties coach, defensive back guy, where front seven comes from KJ Wright kind of thing. Like, hey, let me have more input on this. This is how us linebackers in this system want to have things going. I think it's a good voice to have as a linebacker who's been in the system rather than just hiring a defensive coach who could coach the linebackers. It gives you more intel on how Fred's thinking when he's on the field. Obviously, Nick Sorensen isn't talking to Fred the entire play. So KJ Wright could be that voice for Fred on the sideline to Nick Sorensen.
Also, KJ Wright is linked to Saleh. Saleh was with the Seahawks back when KJ Wright was there. It's interesting how Kyle Shanahan keeps kind of coming back to the Seattle Seahawks roots for this defense. They evolved away from it a little bit with that wide nine, but still, that's what they want to be. A zone defense, essentially. And it seems like the linebackers coverage and zone is really freaking important for this whole thing to work.
Yeah, it's interesting because you would think Kyle Shanahan would want to go away from that scheme, the defensive.
Seattle went away from it.
Like Kyle lights it up every time he plays it.
Exactly.
But then every team in the league's running Kyle's system at some form of Kyle's system, but he still wants that to be his defense. Like that doesn't make sense. Like if you're lighting that defense up, that means it's what? Not a good scheme.
I would agree. That being said, you hire who you know. Nick Sorensen knows KJ Wright. And look what Robert Saleh, he brought in Jeff Ulbrich, another linebacker. So it seems like it could work.
You know what I thought was interesting, Grant, is Jeff Ulbrich, there was a report that he wanted to become the Niners DC.
Really?
So it's like, yeah, like the report came out and it was like, yeah, he wanted to be the Niners DC. They were really interested in him, but there was no way New York was going to let him leave. I thought that was very interesting because like, okay, well, you wanted that guy to be your 1A. He's obviously their 1A. We don't know who 1B was, if there was a 1B.
So they wanted Spagnuolo. That would have been a coup.
That would have been a great hire. So
yep.
Is this a 1-year deal for Sorensen and this group? Because if they don't put up what they can, I believe New York is in their 4th year there. They might get fired. You might have a new defensive coordinator. That's interesting to me. I thought that was a very interesting like nugget I got from that report.
Yeah, let's delve into that a little bit deeper a little later. That's a great call. I'm with you on that. Slick Niner says, who is Adam Peters' replacement? They promoted Tariq Ahmad to director of college scouting. No, from director of college scouting to director of player personnel, and they promoted RJ Gillen to director of player personnel as well. Do you know about these guys?
Two good scouts from what I've kind of watched them. They've been scouts from their whole like upbringing, unlike John Lynch, where you come in as a player and you go straight to GM. I think that's the way to do it. If you're gonna, like, for example, Adam Peters, I think why Adam Peters is so successful was he learned how to scout. He learned how to do all the dirty work for general managers. People don't realize how much scouts and player personnel do for the organization.
Right.
They pretty much are the backbone. They do all the hard work.
Yeah.
So excited to see them
homework.
get their opportunity. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Excited to see them get their opportunity. But
cool. Good question.